Picture this. You wake up one morning and something essential to your daily life has vanished. You search everywhere, but it's gone. Now imagine discovering that someone you trust deliberately hid it from you, not for money, not for revenge, but to drive you insane. This is a psychological thriller, but it's not fiction. I'm Vincent Castellano, and my daughter-in-law, Sophia, didn't just steal my hearing aids. She stole them to gaslight me, to make me question my own sanity, to build a case that I was losing my mind. For weeks, I struggled in silence while she documented my decline with photos and fake medical reports. She was systematically destroying my credibility so she could steal everything I'd worked for. But predators make one critical mistake. They assume their victims are helpless. You're watching Betrayal HQ, where psychological warfare meets perfect justice. Subscribe if you understand that the most dangerous person in any room is the one everyone thinks is harmless. What Sophia didn't realize was that by taking away my hearing, she'd given me the perfect cover to listen to her real plans. And what I heard would send her to prison. I woke up on a Tuesday morning and reached for my hearing aids on the nightstand, just like I had every morning for the past 5 years. The case was empty. My name is Vincent Castellano, and I'm 71 years old. Those hearing aids cost me $6,000 and are absolutely essential for my daily life. Without them, the world becomes muffled and distant, like listening through thick cotton. I have significant hearing loss from decades of construction noise during my years as a building contractor. My late wife Isabella used to joke that I could sleep through a thunderstorm, but we both knew the hearing loss wasn't funny. I searched everywhere, under the bed, in the bathroom, in my jacket pockets, even in the laundry basket. Nothing. Downstairs in the kitchen, my daughter-in-law Sophia was making coffee. My son Antonio and his wife had been living in my guest house for 3 years now, supposedly saving money for their own place. "Have you seen my hearing aids?" I called out, speaking too loudly because I couldn't hear my own voice properly. Sophia looked annoyed. "Vincent, I haven't seen them anywhere. Maybe you misplaced them? You've been forgetting things lately." That wasn't true. My memory was sharp as ever, but I didn't argue. Over the next 2 weeks, I struggled without my hearing aids. Phone calls became impossible. Television was just moving pictures. Conversations with family turned into frustrated shouting matches. I ordered replacement aids, but they would take 3 weeks to arrive. Then, while looking for aspirin in Sophia's bathroom, I found them hidden behind her makeup bottles. They were deliberately concealed. I realized something chilling. Sophia had hidden my hearing aids on purpose. The question was why. Standing in Sophia's bathroom, holding my stolen hearing aids, I made a decision that would change everything. I wouldn't confront her. Instead, I would pretend I never found them. I would continue acting completely deaf and see what Sophia was really planning. I slipped the hearing aids into my pocket and returned to my room. When Sophia came home from grocery shopping, I acted as helpless as before, pointing at my ears and shrugging when she spoke. Her expression was smug, almost satisfied. That evening, I sat in my living room pretending to read while Sophia and Antonio talked in the kitchen, thinking I couldn't hear them. I discreetly put my hearing aids in, hidden by my hand as I rubbed my temples. Their conversation made my blood run cold. "Dad's been completely helpless without those hearing aids," Sophia said. "This is perfect evidence of how much he's declining." Antonio sounded uncomfortable. "Sophia, I don't know about this. It feels wrong to watch him struggle." "Antonio, your father is 71 years old, living alone in this huge house. Those missing hearing aids prove he can't manage his own affairs anymore." "What exactly are you suggesting?" Sophia's voice turned calculating. "I'm suggesting we start documenting his decline. Your father has $4 million in assets, Antonio. If something happens to him without proper legal arrangements, everything becomes complicated." Antonio hesitated. "You mean power of attorney?" "I mean we need to be prepared to take control before he makes any foolish decisions." I sat frozen, my book trembling in my hands. Sophia hadn't just hidden my hearing aids out of cruelty. She'd hidden them to manufacture evidence of my incompetence. Over the following days, I maintained my deaf act while secretly wearing my hearing aids only when alone. I heard Sophia telling Antonio about my supposed decline, mentioning how I couldn't follow conversations, seemed withdrawn and confused. She was building a false narrative about my mental state. I also noticed Sophia taking pictures of me when I looked tired or disheveled, claiming they were family photos when I asked what she was doing. But I knew better. She was documenting my alleged deterioration. I decided to document too. I researched and learned that in my state, I could legally record conversations I participated in without others' consent. I bought a small digital recorder online and began capturing every interaction. I also installed a hidden camera in my living room, disguised in a bookshelf. What I discovered over the next week horrified me. Sophia was actively coaching Antonio on creating a decline journal about me. "Write down every time he forgets something, every time he seems confused, every time he struggles without the hearing aids," she instructed. Antonio complied, though reluctantly. I overheard Sophia on the phone researching memory care facilities and elder care options, comparing prices and services. She was literally planning to institutionalize me. The most heartbreaking discovery came when my daughter Carmen visited one afternoon. I hadn't seen her much since Isabella died 6 months ago. Carmen asked Sophia how I was doing. "Honestly, Carmen, I'm worried about your father," Sophia replied. "He lost his hearing aids and seems so confused and withdrawn. I think he might need professional care soon." Carmen sounded concerned. "Should I talk to him?" "You can try, but he can barely communicate right now. It's really sad to watch." I was sitting 15 feet away, pretending to read a magazine. My own daughter was being told I was mentally declining, and she believed it. Attorney Harold Stevens called the house to discuss Isabella's will. Sophia answered, and I watched her face change as she listened. She hung up and told Antonio, "That was your mother's lawyer. There's a formal will reading scheduled next month, 8 weeks after her death. All family members must attend." Antonio looked puzzled. "Why a formal reading? I thought everything was already settled." "Your mother came from a wealthy family. There might be specific distributions we don't know about." After they left the room, I called Harold back from my bedroom with my hearing aids in. "Harold, it's Vincent. I heard about the will reading. I need to speak with you urgently about something." I met Harold at his office the next day and told him everything: the hidden hearing aids, Sophia's power of attorney scheme, the documentation of my fake decline. Harold was outraged. "Vincent, that's elder abuse. You should report her immediately." I shook my head. "Not yet. I want to see how far this goes." "But Harold, can we use Isabella's will reading?" Harold considered this. Isabella's will contained some unusual provisions. She was concerned about family dynamics before she died. "What kind of provisions?" Harold pulled out a sealed envelope. "Isabella left this letter with instructions to give it to you 6 months after her death. Given what you've told me, you should read it now." I opened Isabella's letter with trembling hands. Her familiar handwriting filled the pages. "My dearest Vincent, if you're reading this, I've been gone for 6 months. I hope you're healing from your grief. But I need to tell you something I discovered before I died. I believe Sophia is manipulating our family. 2 months before my stroke, I overheard her discussing your finances with someone, talking about timeline acceleration and your eventual care needs. When I confronted her, she claimed it was innocent planning. But I didn't believe her. I started watching more carefully and saw how she looked at our home and belongings like she was inventorying them. Vincent, my will includes protective clauses designed to reveal anyone's true intentions toward you. Trust Harold completely. And trust yourself. You're not declining or diminished. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. I love you forever. Fight back. Isabella. I was crying as I finished the letter. Isabella had seen through Sophia's manipulation and tried to protect me even after death. Harold explained. Isabella's will includes trigger clauses. If family members demonstrate greed or manipulation toward you, their inheritances are eliminated. The will reading isn't just about distribution. It's about revealing character. Harold outlined Isabella's strategy. At the reading, I'll discuss her estate and the various bequests. Family members will react based on their expectations and true motivations. If you maintain your deaf act during the reading, Vincent, we can observe everyone's genuine reactions without them filtering their responses. I agreed to continue the deception through the will reading. But first, I needed to gather more evidence about what my family was really planning. Over the next week, I discovered additional betrayals. My grandson Marco, Antonio, and Sophia's 16-year-old son approached me one afternoon. He sat across from me and began speaking, assuming I couldn't hear. But I was secretly wearing my hearing aids. "Grandpa, I know you can't hear me, but I need to tell someone. Mom talks about you like you're a burden, like you're in the way. She says once you're in a care facility, we'll finally have money for a bigger house." Marco was crying softly. "She told me you lost your hearing aids because you're getting forgetful, but I saw her take them from your nightstand. When I asked why, she said you needed to understand your limitations. Grandpa, I don't want you to go to a nursing home. You're not sick. You're just old, and there's nothing wrong with that." My heart ached for Marco. His own mother was gaslighting him about my condition. I started communicating with Marco through written notes. "Thank you for visiting. Your company means everything to me." Marco wrote back, "I love you, Grandpa. I wish I could tell you everything." Through our note exchanges, I learned more disturbing details. Sophia had been meeting with a lawyer about estate planning and researching elder care laws. She'd promised Marco that my money would pay for his college tuition, making commitments about assets that weren't hers. The revelation about my property manager came during a routine phone call. I own 4 rental properties that have provided steady income for decades. For the past 3 months, the financial reports seemed off. Expenses were higher. Rental income was lower. I called my property manager, Carlos Mendez, with my hearing aids in. "Mr. Castellano, I'm glad you called. There's something concerning I need to discuss. Your son-in-law, Miguel Santos, Carmen's husband, has been contacting me about the properties." I was immediately alert. "What has Miguel wanted?" "He claimed he was helping you manage your affairs due to your health issues. He asked me to send financial reports to him instead of you. He also authorized expensive repairs that seemed unnecessary." My blood ran cold. "Did you comply?" Carlos nodded. "For the past 3 months, yes, sir. He seemed legitimate, said you'd asked him to help because of hearing problems." I asked Carlos to show me the detailed expense reports. What I discovered was systematic theft. Miguel had been approving fictional repairs and upgrades through shell companies. In 3 months, he'd stolen approximately $70,000 from my rental income. My daughter's husband was embezzling from me. I felt sick wondering if Carmen knew about Miguel's theft. When I investigated further, I discovered Miguel was deeply in gambling debt and had seen my properties as easy targets. He'd been forging my authorization for unnecessary work, skimming money through fake contractors. Carlos was apologetic. "Mr. Castellano, I'm so sorry. I thought he was legitimately helping you." I asked Carlos to document everything and stop accepting any authorizations from Miguel immediately. But I didn't confront Miguel yet. I wanted to see what would happen at the will reading when everyone's true motivations were revealed. Sophia insisted on hosting a family dinner at my house the night before Isabella's will reading. She invited Carmen and Miguel, plus some extended family members. I agreed, maintaining my deaf persona throughout the evening. At dinner, I sat at the head of my own table, unable to participate in conversation. The family spoke around me and about me as if I weren't there. Sophia played the concerned caregiver perfectly. "It's so important we all support Vincent during this difficult time, especially with his hearing problems." Carmen agreed. "Dad does seem more withdrawn lately." I wanted to scream that I was sitting right there, but I remained silent, pretending to focus on my food. Then the conversation shifted to finances. Miguel, emboldened by wine, said, "Has anyone thought about Vincent's rental properties? He owns 4 buildings. That's significant income just sitting there. If he can't manage them properly anymore, someone should step in." Sophia jumped on this. "Antonio and I have been discussing that exact issue. Vincent really shouldn't be handling complex financial matters in his condition." Carmen looked worried. "Isn't that drastic? Dad's just having hearing problems." Sophia's voice turned patronizing. "Carmen, it's more than hearing issues. He's confused, withdrawn, can't manage basic tasks. We need to be realistic about his decline." Miguel added, "Carmen and I would be happy to help with the properties. I have real estate experience. He didn't. He was an insurance salesman stealing from me." I sat there, invisible in my own home, listening to my family divide up my assets while I was still alive. But I was also recording every treacherous word. The will reading took place in Harold Stevens' law office conference room. Present were Antonio and Sophia, Carmen and Miguel, Marco, and Isabella's sister Elena. I maintained my deaf act throughout. Harold began formally, "We're here to execute Isabella Mari Castellano's last will and testament. Before I begin, Mrs. Castellano left specific instructions that I observe all reactions and statements during this reading." Sophia whispered to Antonio, "What does that mean?" Harold continued, "Isabella's estate totals approximately $2.8 million, separate from her marital property with Vincent. The will contains several bequests, some conditional based on circumstances at the time of reading. He started with smaller bequests, $50,000 to Elena, jewelry to various nieces, $25,000 to their church. Then Harold read, "To my beloved husband Vincent, I leave my personal effects in a trust fund of $600,000 for his care and comfort." Only $600,000? From a $2.8 million estate? Sophia's eyes lit up with greed. She whispered to Antonio, "The rest must be for you and Carmen." Harold continued, "To my son Antonio, I leave $100,000 outright, plus access to a trust fund of $800,000, subject to conditions I'll now outline." Antonio looked pleased. "However," Harold's voice hardened, "these distributions are subject to integrity conditions designed to protect Vincent and reveal true character." The room went silent. Any beneficiary who has attempted to exploit, manipulate, or undermine Vincent's autonomy will forfeit their inheritance entirely. Sophia went pale. Harold looked directly at me. "Vincent, would you like to address the gathering?" I stood up and spoke clearly. "Yes, Harold, thank you." I pulled my hearing aids from my pocket and held them up for everyone to see. "I've been able to hear perfectly this entire time. Every word you've said around me for the past month, I heard and recorded." The room erupted in chaos. Sophia jumped to her feet. "You were faking. That's entrapment," Harold responded calmly. Vincent had every legal right to record conversations he was present for, and pretending to have a disability to observe how people treat you isn't illegal. It's self-protection. I played the first recording. Sophia and Antonio discussing timeline acceleration and taking control of my assets. Antonio's face crumpled, hearing his own voice agreeing to schemes against his father. I played another. Sophia coaching Antonio document my decline. Then the conversation where Sophia admitted hiding my hearing aids to make him understand his limitations. Carmen gasped, "Sophia, you deliberately sabotaged him." Sophia tried to defend herself. "He needed to see reality. I was trying to help him accept that he needs care." I responded quietly, "You were manufacturing evidence that I'm incompetent. That's elder abuse," Harold ruled. "Based on Vincent's evidence, Sophia Castellano has violated Isabella's integrity conditions. Antonio, as her spouse, must determine if you were complicit or manipulated." Antonio was crying. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I thought you were really declining. I didn't know Sophia hid your hearing aids. I didn't know you could hear everything." I could see my son was genuinely remorseful, but he'd still participated. Harold continued, "Antonio, your trust fund is reduced from $800,000 to $200,000 based on your participation. Sophia receives nothing." But there was more. Harold looked at Miguel. "Miguel Santos, Vincent has evidence you've been embezzling from his rental properties." Miguel went white as Harold detailed the $70,000 in fraudulent expenses. Under Isabella's will, any family member who exploits Vincent financially is completely disinherited. Carmen was devastated. "Miguel, you stole from my father?" "It wasn't stealing," Miguel protested. "I was helping manage the properties." I pulled out Carlos's documentation showing the fake contractors and unauthorized expenses. Harold announced, "Carmen Santos remains eligible for inheritance since she wasn't involved in Miguel's theft." The aftermath was swift and brutal. Sophia stormed out, threatening lawsuits that would never materialize. Antonio stayed, devastated but genuinely remorseful. Carmen filed for divorce from Miguel within the week. Harold read the remainder of Isabella's will. "If any family member betrays Vincent's trust, the rest of my estate shall be distributed to protect those who remained loyal." Marco received $500,000 for college in a trust fund. Carmen received $600,000 despite Miguel's betrayal. Elena received $300,000. The remaining funds went to charities supporting elder abuse prevention. Isabella had protected everyone who mattered and punished those who didn't. Marco approached me after the reading. "Grandpa, I knew you could hear. The way you smiled when I talked to you, I could tell. Thank you for trusting me." Within days, the family dynamics completely shifted. Antonio moved out of my guest house and filed for divorce from Sophia. Marco chose to live with me rather than his mother. "Grandpa, I can't live with her anymore. She's angry all the time, blaming everyone but herself. Can I stay with you?" I welcomed my grandson with open arms. Having Marco in the house brought joy I hadn't felt since Isabella died. But Sophia wasn't finished. Sophia's revenge campaign began immediately after losing her inheritance. She filed for custody of Marco, claiming I was unfit to care for a teenager due to my age and hearing disability. She spread rumors in our community that I was senile and being manipulated by my lawyer. She even called Adult Protective Services, filing a false report claiming I was being exploited. The APS investigation was thorough, but quickly determined the complaint was unfounded. Caseworker Maria Gonzalez told me, Mr. Castellano, your home is well-maintained, you're clearly competent, and your grandson is thriving here. This appears to be a retaliatory report. I showed Maria all my evidence, the recordings of Sophia's schemes, the medical evaluations proving my competency, Marco's own testimony about his mother's behavior. Maria was appalled. Sir, what you're describing is systematic elder abuse. You should consider pressing criminal charges. The custody hearing was decisive. I presented my evidence, Dr. Patricia Luna's cognitive evaluation showing I was fully competent, and Marco's clear testimony that he wanted to live with me. The judge ruled in my favor. Ms. Castellano, you've been found to have committed elder abuse against your former father-in-law. I'm honoring your son's choice to live with his grandfather, who has been thoroughly evaluated and deemed fit. But Sophia's final desperate act shocked everyone. Miguel, facing criminal charges for embezzlement, offered to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for a plea deal. His confession revealed the full scope of Sophia's conspiracy. Sophia approached me 6 months ago, right after Isabella's stroke, Miguel testified. She said Vincent was going to decline rapidly and we needed to secure assets before it got complicated. She suggested I position myself as helping Vincent manage his properties, then gradually transfer control to myself. She promised that once Vincent was in a care facility, no one would question it. I asked the prosecutor, why would Miguel agree? Gambling debts. He owed $200,000 to dangerous people. Sophia promised if he helped her, she'd ensure he got access to enough of your money to pay off his debts. Carmen, present at this meeting, was heartbroken. You are going to rob my father to pay gambling debts? I was desperate, Miguel said, but Sophia was the mastermind. She recruited me, planned the property transfers, told me exactly how to forge authorizations. This revelation meant Sophia's actions constituted conspiracy to commit elder abuse and fraud. Miguel's plea deal included probation and restitution, but his testimony was devastating for Sophia. The prosecutor asked me, Mr. Castellano, do you want to press charges against Sophia? I thought about Marco, about the family damage, about other elderly people who might be victimized. Yes, I said, she needs to face consequences. 3 months after the will reading, Sophia's criminal trial began. She was charged with elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, filing false reports, and attempted theft. The trial was emotionally brutal. I testified about finding my hearing aids hidden in her drawer, about 2 months of documenting her schemes while pretending to be deaf. Antonio testified about Sophia's manipulation and the declined journal she forced him to keep. Miguel testified about Sophia recruiting him to embezzle from my properties. Marco, now 17, bravely testified about his mother's cruelty and obsession with my money. The recordings were played in court, Sophia's voice discussing accelerating timelines, hiding my hearing aids to prove my limitations, planning to institutionalize me. Sophia's defense argued she was trying to help an elderly man who wouldn't accept assistance. The jury didn't buy it. Verdict: guilty on all charges. Sentence: 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, $15,000 in restitution, permanent restraining order. As Sophia was led away, she looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, old man. But it was over. For her. Marco chose not to visit his mother in prison. Grandpa, I know she's my mom, but I can't forgive what she tried to do to you. Maybe someday, but not now. The healing process took time. Antonio was devastated. Divorced, his mother dead, his wife in prison, his relationship with me damaged. We started family therapy together. Slowly, painfully, we rebuilt trust. Dad, I was weak, Antonio admitted. I let Sophia convince me that controlling you meant caring for you. I see now how wrong that was. I forgave him because he was my son and because his remorse was genuine. Carmen's divorce from Miguel was finalized quickly. She couldn't forgive his theft attempt. She moved back home with her children, closer to me. We grieved Isabella together and rebuilt our relationship. Marco flourished, living with me. He was a senior in high school, applying to colleges with his inheritance trust fund securing his education. I want to study social work, Grandpa. After seeing what Mom tried to do to you, I want to protect vulnerable people. I was incredibly proud. My rental properties were properly managed again with enhanced oversight. My finances were secure and my health was good. But something was missing. Isabella. I visited her grave often, talking to her. Bella, your plan worked perfectly. You protected me even after you were gone. I wish you were here to see justice served. Harold Stevens called with one final surprise about Isabella's estate. Vincent, there was one more sealed document Isabella left, marked to be opened 1 year after her death only if the will's integrity conditions were triggered. We opened the envelope together. Inside was another letter from Isabella and additional financial documents. My darling Vincent, if you're reading this, my suspicions about Sophia proved correct. I'm so sorry you had to endure her betrayal, but I have one final gift. I secretly invested $500,000 in a trust that's been growing for 20 years. It was designed to activate only if you needed resources to defend yourself from family exploitation. The trust is now worth $1.4 million. It's yours, Vincent. Use it to live joyfully, travel, spoil the grandchildren, find happiness. You've spent your life caring for others. Now care for yourself. And Vincent, if you're lonely, don't be afraid to find companionship. I want you to be happy, not to grieve forever. You have my blessing to live fully. I love you always. Isabella. I wept reading her words. Isabella had thought of everything, even my future happiness. Over the following months, I took her advice. I traveled to places we'd always planned to visit. I took Marco to Italy for his high school graduation. I donated generously to elder abuse prevention programs. And I joined a grief support group where I met other widows and widowers rebuilding their lives. I wasn't looking for romance, but I was open to friendship. Life felt full again. 2 years after Isabella's death, I was volunteering at the senior center where I taught financial literacy classes. Marco, now a college sophomore studying social work, volunteered with me during breaks. We help seniors recognize and prevent financial exploitation. Antonio, sober for a year after developing drinking problems during the crisis, sometimes joined us, trying to make amends. Carmen coordinated the program. She'd found her calling protecting vulnerable adults after watching her father fight back. Today, I was the keynote speaker at an elder abuse prevention seminar. I told my story, the hidden hearing aids, the months of pretending to be deaf, the schemes I uncovered, the will reading that exposed everything. The audience was captivated. An elderly woman approached afterward. Mr. Castellano, thank you. My son has been pressuring me to sign over my house. Your story helped me see I'm not being paranoid. I'm getting a lawyer tomorrow. I'd helped someone else avoid what I'd endured. That evening, I gathered my family for dinner. Antonio, Carmen, Marco, and my other grandchildren. We were healing. Marco asked, Grandpa, do you ever regret pretending to be deaf? I thought about it carefully. No, Marco. By pretending to be deaf, I heard the truth about people's hearts. It saved me, it protected our family's resources, and it brought us closer together. Carmen added, and it taught us all about the difference between caring for someone and controlling them. As we finished dinner, I reflected on the journey. 2 years ago, Sophia stole my hearing aids, trying to make me helpless and dependent. Instead, She gave me the perfect tool to expose her schemes and protect myself. By acting deaf, I heard everything that mattered. Now at 73, I was surrounded by family who loved and respected me. Sophia was in prison where she belonged. My assets were protected. Marco was becoming a champion for vulnerable people. And I'd honored Isabella's final wish by learning to live fully again. I put in my hearing aids, the original ones, still working perfectly after being recovered from Sophia's hiding place. I could hear everything. My family's laughter, the television in the background, my own thoughts. I wasn't deaf. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't a victim. I was a 73-year-old man who'd outsmarted those who underestimated him, protected his family, honored his wife's memory, and built a future filled with love and purpose. Sophia had tried to silence me by stealing my hearing. Instead, I heard everything I needed to hear, and I won.